July 2nd is the midway point of the year, and so today I thought I would bring you along as I do a little mid-year check-in on the goals that I set at the beginning of the year. And when I set my goals at the beginning of the year, I wasn't using the system that I'm about to share with you today, and that left me a little distracted, a little unfocused, and not necessarily taking the right steps to hit my goals. So if you're potentially off track with your goals and you want a little help getting refocused so that you can finish the year strong and hit the goals that you set out for yourself, then this is the video for you. For me, goals are so important. They're how you really stretch beyond the life that you have now. They're how you can imagine something different that entices you to get out of your comfort zone and really helps you grow as a person. And for me, I'm really interested in becoming my best self and in always learning, always growing, and always moving forward into a better future. And what I've found as I've started setting goals for myself and achieving them is that it really builds a lot of momentum in your life. When you set a goal and you're not really sure if you can reach it or not, but you try anyways and you start taking the steps, and when you eventually make it happen, it's pretty exciting and it gives you that boost of confidence. And before you know it, you're thinking, if I can do that, what else can I achieve in my life? So here's the steps that you need to take to do a mid-year check-in on your goals and make sure that you're on track or to get back on track and hit them by the end of the year. The first step is to do a status check. So what did you originally want at the beginning of the year and what actually ended up happening? And as you reflect on what actually ended up happening, I want you to take this time to celebrate. And I want you to be able to celebrate even the smallest things. Even if you feel you're completely off track, you didn't even start your goal, there are still things to celebrate here. For example, if you set a goal, but you didn't actually get into action on it, well, you can celebrate setting a goal and having that moment of wanting something different for your life and not being on autopilot and really having something to grow towards. And I think that's worth celebrating. And if you're someone that did set a goal and you stuck to it for maybe a couple weeks or a couple months and then you fell off track, that's still worth celebrating as well. You still set a goal and you still did improve yourself for the amount of time that you stuck to that goal. That's still better than the version of yourself that didn't do anything. And the last part of your status check is to ask yourself, am I on track for this goal or not? If you had a goal that you set for the year, we're halfway through the year now, so are you on track for hitting that goal by the end of the year? And as you're doing this, this is not a time to start judging yourself or placing a label or a positive or negative quality on whatever you've done. We're just saying, are we on track or not? This is judgment-free. This is purely just a status check-in. And for me, I really like to think of being on track as moving in the right direction. A lot of our goals can be a little bit nebulous. For example, one of my goals at the beginning of the year was to grow and monetize this YouTube channel. And so how would I know if I'm on track? I would know I'm on track if I'm moving in the right direction, if I am gaining subscribers and gaining watch time. I can't really say how fast I should be growing or how fast I could be growing because that's out of my control. But for me, my status is, am I on track to be monetized this year? Yes. Is my channel growing? Are things going in the right direction? Yes. So the next step is to remind yourself of your why. Why are you doing all this hard work in the first place? Why do you want this goal? It should be pretty obvious why you want it, and it should be something that feels compelling. For example, with my YouTube channel, why am I trying to grow my YouTube channel? I have a lot of reasons why. One of them being I want to connect with people like you that are interested in what I can offer, in how I can help you improve your life and change your situation and move on from a job that you don't love. Those are the types of people that I want to help because I was once there myself and I was able to leave that job, and now I'm excited to help other people change their careers as well. Another thing for me is I've always been into YouTube. I'm someone who likes to consume information on YouTube, and I've always been fascinated by these channels that you see blow up and then people become full-time YouTubers and things like that. And you always kind of have this sense of, okay, well, they're making enough money to live, right? But I've always been so curious about that peek behind the curtain, behind that YouTube curtain, to really see what goes on and what a channel can really do for you and your life. So part of that is just curiosity. And my last why, of course, it would be nice to monetize my channel and have another income stream coming from the AdSense revenue. And those are all really compelling reasons for me to stick with it, because building a YouTube channel doesn't happen overnight, and it is a lot of work to pull together a channel and really help it grow. So you really want something that's going to be motivating through the good times and the bad times of reaching your goal. So the next step is to ask yourself, what now? Am I staying with these goals, or am I dropping some of them? And there's no right or wrong answer here. It's okay if you want to drop some goals because maybe you set them because of extrinsic motivation, or because of, the praise or the reward or other people seeing you in a certain way. But that really wasn't enough motivation intrinsically to keep you going on this goal. So maybe it's okay if you drop those goals that you set for maybe the wrong reasons. So if you're off track with your goals, then you need to decide either, am I going to fix the problems that are keeping me from being on track with my goal, or am I going to drop this goal entirely? And if it still is important to you, then we'll talk about how you can fix the problems that may have come up in the next step. And if you are on track with your goals, then this is just a great time to check in and remind yourself of what you said at the beginning of the year that you wanted and why you wanted it, and just recommit yourself to that goal. And make sure that it's specific and time-bound, because this way you'll know exactly what you're going for and you'll know when you want to get it done by, and that'll get you into motion. And you don't need to know exactly when it's going to happen. For me, I can't say when my channel will be monetized, but I think it's reasonable that I could monetize it within 1 year. So that's kind of the timeline that I'm working with. So step number 4 is creating your action plan. What will you be doing for the rest of the year in order to hit your goals? And one of the first things you can ask yourself is, what have I tried so far to hit this goal? And what worked and what didn't? So you can ask yourself, if something worked, then maybe I want to double down on that or just continue that strategy. And if something didn't work, then I know that that approach doesn't work. And it doesn't mean that you've failed. It just means that you found a way that doesn't work for you. And so if you did hit some hurdles, or you didn't get started, or you're just off track for whatever reason, there are a couple of reasons why that may have happened. And I'm going to talk about those now. And maybe one of them will apply to your situation, and it'll help you get back on track and start your goals with a new sense of optimism and a way forward. So one of the things that can happen is we get really excited when we set goals and we feel really motivated. We have that fresh start motivation, and it kind of peaks up here as we get started. And then as we get into the weeds of things, we kind of lose that motivation, and then we either stop or we'll figure out a way to bounce back and keep moving forward. And so right now, if you've fallen off track with your goals, you may have gotten excited, and then you may have come down here and you just kind of stopped. And if you've stopped, this is the place where you either decide, I'm just going to quit and cut this goal, or I'm going to figure out a way to bounce back and keep moving forward. And if you aren't having that motivation, then you probably need to connect with a stronger why. You need a better reason why you want this, what it's going to do for your life, who it will help you become, what your future self is going to be like as a result of this goal, things like that. You need to really dig deep beyond the kind of surface outcomes of a goal. Another reason you may have gotten off track or not even started on your goal is that you were lacking confidence. And for this, there's a lot of different things that can help with confidence, but one of the things that can help is having a reasonable plan in place, having the first couple steps that makes it a little bit more clear, a little less ambiguous and scary, and you know exactly what to do in order to move forward, and that can give you confidence. I've also found for myself that when I have a really good, strong reason why I want something, that gives me a lot of courage. That gives me a lot of optimism and hope. And for me, those things translate into a willingness to try, and it gives me a little bit of confidence. And once you get into action and you start to realize things aren't as scary as you thought, or they're more doable than you thought, then that confidence starts to build because you become more competent. For me, when I first started making YouTube videos, I wasn't as confident talking in front of the camera. I didn't necessarily know how to juggle everything that goes on with creating a YouTube video, but with repetition and practice, I became more competent, which built my confidence. Another thing, if you haven't really gotten started with your goal, is that you may not have committed to doing it. You were kind of like, that would be nice to have, maybe I'll do it, but you never really sat down and told yourself, this is a commitment I'm making in my life now, and this is what we're doing for the next 3 to 6 months, and I really want that outcome. You really need to commit yourself to it, and that helps you make decisions in the future. If you're committing yourself to, for example, running a 5K in 3 months, then you know when it comes time to run or not, it's like Sunday morning, it's time to do your long run, and you're like, oh, I'm kind of tired. When you're committed to something, there's no dialogue with yourself. It's happening because you've committed to it. Another example in my own life is I've been doing a little bit of a test with removing gluten from my diet. And so I'm committed to that. I know that I'm doing that for 30 days. And so when it comes down to what I'm going to eat, there's no debating, there's no decision making. I don't need to rely on, having willpower or anything like that because it's decided already. I'm not eating gluten. And so when you're tired at the end of the day, it just helps you. Like if you've made decisions all day, you have decision fatigue and you just kind of want something, like it helps you just make those decisions in the moment because it's predetermined. Some of you may have made a goal, but then not really gotten into action for another reason, which is common. And it's, I just don't know how to start. I don't know how to do it. And for that, you're just going to have to take a guess. You're going to have to figure something out. You probably have a sense of what the first step is, and you're probably just too scared to do it. And if you truly do not know, then you're able to look on the internet. You're watching a YouTube video right now. You can look things up and figure out how to at least take a guess at what might be the first thing you could do. And so that's what you have to do to get started. Another reason you may not have gotten started is because you set a goal that felt very big, very far away, and very overwhelming. And so one of the things that you can do is break that goal down into bigger chunks. So something that's very relatable, not everyone sets New Year's resolutions like this anymore, but let's say you wanted to lose like 40 pounds over the next year. That can feel pretty daunting. A year is a long time to stick to a certain lifestyle and diet regime, and 40 pounds is a lot of weight to lose. And so that can just be overwhelming, and you think, oh, I'm never going to get there. Like, oh, how am I going to do this for a whole year? I'm just not going to start because I feel overwhelmed by the prospect of this goal. So one of the things that you can do is break it down into smaller chunks that are easier to digest and just easier to wrap your mind around. Like instead of losing 40 pounds over a year, you can say, okay, in the next quarter, I want to lose 10 pounds. And that's a lot easier to wrap your mind around. It's easier to commit yourself to, say, a 3-month sprint or a 3-month trial of a new lifestyle and diet than it is to commit yourself to a whole year. And of course, that's just an example that's easy for everyone to kind of wrap their minds around. This can apply to any goal. So once you've reestablished your goal and you have a sense of your action plan and what you'd like to achieve moving forward by the end of the year, then you can start to break it down like I just talked about in the last step. And I want to be clear here, as you're thinking about moving forward, that unsuccessful attempts are not failures. They're just one way that didn't work for you. And one analogy that I really like, or an example that I've heard in the past, is if someone put 10 envelopes in front of you and said, one of these envelopes has $1 million in it, and you open the first envelope and it didn't have the $1 million check, would you just give up and call it a failure? Probably not. You would continue to open envelopes until you found the one that had the $1 million check. And that's what you're doing here with your goals as well. You just need to keep trying different ways until you find the thing that works. So what I like to do And what I alluded to in the last tip that I gave in the last section is I like to break down my year-long goals into 12-week or quarterly sub-goals. And I believe this is talked about in the book, The 12-Week Year. I haven't read it yet, but I get the idea. It's that you break your goals into 12-week sprints and that it's less overwhelming and more motivating to work on something for like a 3-month period rather than having to work towards something for the whole year. And so if we take the example of my channel being monetized, let's just for now pretend that this was a brand new channel. And to be monetized, I would need 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch time hours. And so if I broke this down into quarters, that means I would need to gain 250 subs per quarter and 1,000 watch time hours. And then by the end of the year, I would have my channel monetized. And of course, I cannot say when this will happen, and it's probably not going to be a straight line that is going to be neat and tidy, and I'm probably not going to get exactly 250 subs every quarter and 1,000 watch time hours, but this just gives me a general sense of if I get this, then that's what I will be monetized by the end of the year. And it just gives me a rough estimate for something that is really out of my control. Okay, I have a couple notes here and I'm going to be reading from them. So at the beginning of the year, I decided to recommit myself to my YouTube channel and I wanted to get it monetized and I wanted to build an audience of people that I could potentially help through my videos and through my coaching business. And so at the beginning of the year, I had 410 subs and about 900 watch time hours, which means that I needed to get about 600 new subscribers this year and about 3,000 watch time hours over the course of the year to become monetized. And if we think about the target of, 250 subs every quarter and 1,000 watch time hours, that can be a rough estimate for me, even though I did start out with some starting subscribers and watch time hours. And so in Q1 of 2024, I gained 246 subs and 555 watch time hours. So I was about on track for that 250 subs per quarter, and I only got about half the watch time hours that I needed to kind of be on this linear track. And then in Q2, I gained 312 subscribers and 986 watch time hours. So in Q2, I was just about on track for what I would need to do quarterly in order to hit my goal. And so I think one of the things that really improved between Q1 and Q2 was, I got better at producing YouTube videos. I was constantly improving and reflecting and knowing when to pivot, and I wasn't taking things too personally. Like if a video didn't do well, it's just like, okay, that video didn't do well. Maybe my title and thumbnail sucked. Maybe my delivery sucked. Like that doesn't matter. It's what did I learn from that so that I can make the next video better and move forward. And it's just like Ali Abdaal says in his channel when he talks about YouTube growth, you just look back at the last video that you made and you choose one thing that you could improve upon and then you implement that in the next video. And I think another thing that's helped me is I've also been able to, through that repetition, build my competence and start to learn, what I like to talk about on YouTube, what you like to hear me talk about. And I think all of that just starts to come together with more repetition. And again, like I said, that all leads to confidence as well in what you're doing. So if you have a goal that you're continuing to move forward on, maybe break it down into the next 2 quarters. We have 2 3-month sprints left in the year, and what would you like to do in each of those? And the way that I break down kind of my 3-month quarters is I look at what I want to achieve, and then I figure out what actions that I will take in order to achieve those. So when you think about the goal of YouTube monetization, that is completely out of my control. I really can't control what will happen there. I don't know how fast it will happen. So all I can control are my actions. And so what I've committed myself to is to publish a video every week, to reflect on how every video goes and improve one thing from each video, and to always be refining and leaning into, what I think are my areas of strength and what I can share with you to just deliver better videos every time. And so the way that I'm able to, reflect on my success is not whether or not my channel is growing at the pace that I think it should. It's whether or not I'm doing the things that I've committed to, and then reflecting at the end of each quarter if those actions are effective or not. And so have I done, 4 videos a month, like I said? And if I have, then I'm on track. So a lot of us will commit ourselves to goals that are outside of our sphere of influence or our sphere of control, and then we feel bad when it doesn't happen. It's like if you wanted to run a marathon and you made the goal to win the marathon, that's kind of out of your control. You don't know who else is signing up for that marathon. Could be a lot of runners that are better than you at that marathon. So you shouldn't set the goal to be the best at a race when you have no control over everyone else. And even setting a goal like, I want to run my own personal best, like I want to get a new personal best time in the race, is also not really totally in your control. It's more in your control than whether or not you're going to run the race, but things come up. You could have an awful night's sleep before the race. You could have been sick the day of the race or prior to. Maybe the weather is just against you. There's so many things that are outside of your control, even when you're setting a goal like running a personal best that doesn't depend on anyone else. And so the things that are really within your control are how often and how well you show up for your training. That's really all that's in your control when it comes to the race. So did you hit every training run? Did you hit the time you were supposed to, the distance you were supposed to, the tempo, whatever is important for that? That's really all that's in your control, and that's what you should be judging yourself on. And so the next step, once you have your plan, it's been broken down into quarterly actions, is to really figure out who you need to become in order to make that happen. And for that, you're going to have to wait until next week's video, where I'm going to be talking more about the habits and the behaviors of who you need to be when you're setting goals for yourself. And so if you're interested in that, then make sure to subscribe so that you'll get the notification and you can check that video out next week. And with that, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you next week.